Yeah. So for years I went through magazines, newspapers, booklets, books. And I just was tearing them apart, cutting out the part that to me seemed important. And it was like a constant cleaning of my environment, because all the parts of books and stuff that didn't seem to matter, I could throw away. So now you wonder, how did she do that? How could she have so many books that can just be, you know, torn apart? Because after that, I have destroyed them, haven't I? Well, there is this to take with and to bring to library concept in Switzerland. So in the financial city Zurich of Switzerland, in the middle of it all, beside a lake, you find a lot of time to go through books once you're homeless, once you're irritated or not certain what you're gonna do next. So once through these stages, I wasn't doing a fashion label, painting onto stuff. Once before that, I was going through all these things that come to my post box, and I was even having the advertisement newspapers from 2 supermarkets coming there each week. So I was really fed by quite a lot of things, like email where you log in, where you go by yourself, and of course these books from these libraries. So I was allowed to take any book I liked and just take it. Now it's mine, so I can do with it whatever I want. Cut out the pictures, whatever. So I just remember some stupid woman. She's seen me taking a lot of these books. So years later, when I was again at that library, I was like talking to her, telling her, you know, this and that book I've read. And so now I come back and I see like so many books that are kind of not my favorite ones, but it's like I've read so many books. So when you go through a library that consists of other people's books, of course you find a lot of old friends, books you've read. So she went talking to me, and in the end she went like, oh well, so you've got Asperger's syndrome. And she didn't say it like that. She went like, you're a Asperger, Lee. So she was putting me down. Like, oh, now she got a reason for all my, you know, reading and for all my topics that I felt inclined to study by myself and not to rely on a university to tell me what to think about the world. So, I mean, this term is totally obsolete, but if you want to compare me to anyone, then please compare me to those intelligent ones and those sensible Asperger's. So no one ever gave me that term. I found it myself, as we do, you know. People would go saying, well, you look a lot like these hypersensible and overactive ADHD what people. So I go like, oh yeah, I might look at that. And then of course the health issues, then you go, oh yeah, that one might be true, I'm not eating right. So actually it's not Asperger's, it's just our industrialized food doesn't give the nutritions, like you should eat meat. I'm not eating meat since like when I got it, when I could choose what to have. So I was never eating the meat beforehand. So I had like half a meal at lunch and all of that. Breakfast was better. But otherwise, it's those sweet things that don't really help either. So when I now know about keto diet, I know that all sorts of fats I should have, like feta, and a little bit of bread is fine, or a little bit of potatoes, again, starches and sugars. Yeah, but not like bread in the morning with marmalade accompanied by milk with sugar in it. That's our breakfast in Switzerland. So the little bit cheese, which is fat, is like the most healthy around here. So I was like, yeah, destroying my intestines by that, because the bacterial world, the bad bacteria, they like sugars a lot. So my Vita Biosa drink in my refrigerator, I have to cool down, because if I'm not, that one, the bacteria in there with the melasse, the jam in there, will just continue its bacteria growth, and maybe all of a sudden I have the bad ones growing in there, like, I'm not sure, collecting any other bacteria from other places into that bottle now that it is open, you know. So it's in the refrigerator and it stays healthy until I have used it up. But now I really do. I use a lot of Vita Biosa, it is called. Like whenever I come home, I prepare a drink which is lemon juice and water and like 15 milliliters of Vita Biosa, then mannose and galactose as a sugar, and sometimes I even put some collagen in there and some stevia mixed with xylitol, that sugar. Yeah, that's about it. So these things I drink quite often. I learned to drink not too much lemon juice, because that one will just trigger outburst of headaches. So yeah. So yeah, I started in that library with that stupid woman going like putting other people down, whereas I was talking to her like, you know, oh, good books, bad books and stuff, and then she takes it on a personal level, like going, ah, yeah. So I go like, when I remember that library, the last visit I had was not so nice because I talked, you know. Otherwise, I was just going there, taking the books, cutting out, tearing out pages I needed, putting the books back, if they're like heavy books. I wasn't into carrying those books with me. So yeah, maybe that woman had a reason and she's like, oh, you know, she's destroying so many books or whatever. People are always on that negative, reactionary side of their lives and not really acting. If she were acting, she would have been there doing something, and by her being there doing something on her own, she wouldn't have had reasons to fight me, because she was acting. She was a acting part in her life, doing something she could have talked about. So me, I was collecting books that I wanted, and I was sending them to the place I was living at. So all these kilos I didn't have to carry home. So I was thinking about having a little library with like real good books. So when I'm at the toilet, I could go through some stuff But eventually it's like filling my brain, which feels like trash, because just to wait what would come up by itself feels much more meaningful. So what I did was all the curtains, all the pictures, all the knick-knack, all the books, did I say books already? Had to go. So I was really like putting away with a lot of kind of stuff people do. Like people do have seats at home, they have a real bed. And by that, moving gets so complicated, you actually get stuck where you live at. But if you don't really own stuff, I was moving the last year. This year I moved once. The last year I moved 3 times. And the year before I moved 2 times. So I was at 5 different places within 2 years. And that one was just possible because I don't own that much. It could all go into the cellar of a woman that I kind of got to know. So she would have my stuff and I could easy, just lay back and wait for a good, like, out in the nature living space. So yeah. Then I moved into the valley, this valley, and then I found an even better house for myself up here. And now I'm up here, so all these transitions wouldn't have been possible if I had had a bed, a real bed, you know, some kind of a roast to sleep on, and an armchair to sit in, a table, you know, all these things I didn't have. All sorts of curtains and pictures and carpets I didn't have. I just had one carpet I slept on. That one I gave away. So when I moved in, I didn't even have a carpet to sleep on. So I slept on sheep fur that I put on the floor. It was really comfortable. I loved it. It was perfect. It was warm enough and it was really good for my back. Yeah, I hear a helicopter. Yeah. I saw the black cat. You know, whenever I hear a helicopter here, I think of my little boo-boo, the cat that died, and kind of I didn't go with the cat and the helicopter to give it to someone that would give it, you know, ozone and nutritions and stuff. I was good to the cat as far as my possibilities reached. I wasn't perfect for that cat. That cat, it's like if that cat had some other owner, it might still be living. Some other people, if a cat is bleeding from its paw, they go to the doctor. So I went like, okay, this is a wild cat. How did it do stuff before I came here? Well, there was no interaction. That cat would only let me come close. So yeah, then the cat was gone again for days. And then when he came back, the leg wasn't bleeding. And so I thought it's all fine. Until the cat, months later, was licking off all the fur from that paw. And it got inflamed. So by that time, the cat was already really slim. And then when it kind of came to the vet, when we went back home, it disappeared. So before the vet, it was gone for 4 days. After the vet, it was gone for 3.5 days. And then it stayed for me a while, and I did not feed the cat. and have it indoors. I let it go again. So the cat was gone for 10 days. After some days with me and like going out and coming back, all of a sudden I realized the cat is not eating. Oh, this video gets real long. I'll start again.